All right, guys, welcome back to another video. I know it sure doesn't look like it with all the snow we've got here in Wisconsin, but turkey hunting is going to be right around the corner, and for some of you in some states, it's already here. And so today we're going to try and settle one of the hottest debates in turkey hunting, which is the best shell to use. Now, right off the bat, there's going to be a lot of people that will tell you any of the TSS loads are going to be the way to go. Now, that's a tungsten load. And it's basically just a different material that tends to be able to pattern a little bit tighter, which allows you to shoot out to longer distances. The problem is it's about $70 for a box of 5 of them, which is just way too expensive in our opinion for a box of shells. We like to be more in the range of like $20 for a box of 10. But even if you're in that range, the question still stands, which one of those loads is going to be the best? So today we're going to try and test that out and come up with a good answer for which one of these is going to be the best out to the longest distances. So we've got 4 to choose from, and these are 4 loads that are pretty popular that you're going to see in just about any store that you walk into to go and buy ammo. So we've got the Federal Premium Grand Slam, and I'll just start right off the bat by saying these are all 12 gauge, all 3-inch, and they're all 4-shot. So all that's the same across the board. The one difference you're going to have is how many ounces. Now, the Federal Premium and the 2 Winchesters are going to be 1 3/4 ounce. It's the Remington that's a little bit heavier at 1 7/8, and then the velocity that you get at the muzzle. So for the Federal Premium, it's 1,200 feet per second, which is pretty standard. That's what you're going to see. Then we've got the Winchester Longbeard XR. This is one we've shot for a couple years now. Once again, everything's all the same, 1,200 feet per second for velocity. And then we have another Winchester, because you tend to see both of these pretty much side by side on the shelves. And a lot of people might look at it and say, all right, well, the difference is the double X adds another 100 feet per second. So this one is about 1,300 feet per second in velocity, but does it really help you that much? We're going to find out. And then we have the Remington Nitro Turkey. I believe this is one of the cheaper boxes you can get. I want to say this one is sub $20, and the other ones might be around $20, $22, somewhere in there. And this is one that I haven't had a ton of experience with, so we'll see how this one goes today. Like I said, this one is a bit heavier at 1 7/8 ounces, and it shoots at about 1,210 feet per second. So it's just 10 more feet per second than the standard 1,200, and a little bit slower than the double X at 1,300. So we've got 4 pretty popular, some of the most popular, I would say, turkey loads that you're going to find on the shelves. We're going to shoot them all today at various yardages. We're going to start at 20, then we're going to go to 35, then we're going to go to 50, and we'll compare them all once it's all said and done and figure out which one has the tightest groups and can shoot the furthest. All right, so we'll start by shooting 2 at a time. And we're going to start here at about 20 yards. So the first one I'm going to shoot is the Winchester Double X. So that one's going in. And then the second one will be the Remington Nitro Fire. So we'll shoot the left one first. That's going to be the Double X. Right one second. That's going to be the Nitro Fire. And we're at about 20 yards here. Okay, that was the Double X. All right, Nitro Fire. Well, one thing I can tell you for certain is I'm going to have a very, very sore shoulder after this is all said and done. So I've got Federal Premium in first, and then the Longbeard XR, the Winchester, is going to be second. So we'll go left to right again. First the Federal Premium, then with the Winchester. All right, that was the Federal Premium. Now the Winchester. All right, interesting. So we've got a good pattern here on each, but this one's left and this one's right, which could be me, but it also could be the gun. You know, every gun's gonna shoot a little bit differently for each of these rounds. So interesting. All right, well, we'll see if that trend continues. All right, guys, so now we're backed up to about 35 yards. We're just going to repeat the same thing. So I've got the Winchester Double X. That's going to go first. And then on the right, we'll have the Remington Nitro Fire going second. First up, we've got the Winchester XX, once again, 35 yards. I can tell you right now from what I just saw, I do not think I like where that pattern is at all. We'll see when we get a little bit closer, but I'm pretty sure I've got plenty of BBs that are over in my next target, so we might have to just space them out a little bit as we get to longer distances here, but I do not like that. Okay, let's see. Now we're on the Remington Nitro Fire. All right, let's check it out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I do not like what I'm seeing here because I'm noticing the majority of my pattern way to the right of this bird. I mean, we might have got enough of them. And then, I mean, most of that is this. And then even the Remington, I'm noticing way off here to the right. So, number one, that could be me. Two, that could be my gun. And three, that could be what we're shooting here. So we're gonna have to load up the next two and see how it goes. But I really hope we can kind of correct that a little bit. Hopefully that is me, because it's not the worst pattern here. It's still tight enough if you can get it on the bird. So hopefully that's just me and we can work that out. But if that's the gun specifically always shooting right, or you know, these shells always shooting right, that could be a problem. All right, let's see if we can try and correct that a little bit. So we're gonna start with the Federal Premium on the left and the Longbeard XR on the right. I'm not gonna try and do anything too different besides just make sure I'm really being steady. And if we keep seeing a trend like that, then there's a good chance that it's probably my gun. If one of them kind of takes charge and really stays straight, there's a chance that that could mean that it's a better load. And if it continues to just be all over the place, then that's probably me. So we'll take a look here and see what we can do with these. But first up on the left, Federal Premium, 35 yards. Looking from here, kind of hard to tell. The other camera should pick it up a little bit better. I want to say we still got some to the right, but that might have been a little bit straighter. So we'll take a look. We'll see what the Longbeard XR can do here. So this one's interesting because definitely the bulk of the pattern, I would say, is still a little bit to the right, but we got a little bit more off to the left, even with a couple going this far out, which means there's a couple that could have missed the paper. So with the Federal Premium here, it's hard to say now. Does this mean that it's just not as tight of a load, so it's going to spread out a little bit better? I mean, there's still plenty in here to kill a bird. And then looking at the Longbeard XR, this is a much tighter pattern, but still just on this right side. But then you look, and you got a bunch over here as well. So this is starting to lead me to believe that my gun really favors this right side, which if I know that as a hunter, just means I might have to, you know, lean it a little bit more onto the left-hand side, and then we should be okay. But this is interesting. We'll head out to 50 now. All right, so basically what I've decided at this point is that my gun is probably just shooting quite a bit to the right. So I'm gonna intentionally try and bring that back just a little bit to the left, but we're back here now at about 50 yards. This is quite a poke. It's something that you might be able to do with the TSS. Some people might try and go to 50, 60. And so we're gonna try and see if we can do that with some of these cheaper loads as well. Once again, we are going to start things off with the Winchester XX, and then the Remington Nitro Fire. We'll take these two shots, load up the last two, and we'll see how we do. I mean, so far we've got tight enough patterns that we should be able to kill a bird with any of these at all of these distances so far. It's more so just making sure that pattern actually stays on the bird, which is more on the shooter and more on the gun. So we'll see if that holds true out to 50. All right, well, that's one. And at this point, we are too far away now for me to really be able to tell where we're at. I don't know. You guys saw it on camera. Maybe I look like a fool right now. Maybe I look like a pretty good shot. We'll find out when I walk up there. But one more now. This is the Remington Nitro. And that's the thing. I think I keep saying Nitro Fire. It's the Nitro Turkey. My apologies on that. I think the Nitro Fire is a muzzle loader mechanism that they've got. So my apologies on that. It's the Nitro Turkey. But yeah, the Remington here. 50 yards. Got about 4 weeks before the season starts. I don't know if that's long enough for a shoulder surgery and heal in time. But good Lord. Ooh, okay, 2 to go. 2 to go. And we have the Federal Premium. That's going to be our start. And the last one is going to be the Longbeard XR. I almost felt better about those two pattern-wise and direction-wise than I did about any of them at 35. But I would say out of those two, the clear winner was the Double X. Not super impressed by that Remington. But we'll see how these do. Starting with the Federal Premium. Once again, we are at 50 yards. Once again, can't tell. We'll just keep her rolling. Last one, it is the Longbeard XR, 50 yards. All right, we'll check it out. All right, guys, well, this is really interesting here because I think we've got a couple more dead birds, but the thing that I keep noticing is it feels like the pattern ends up being always on both sides of the bird and then not that much actually in the middle. It's like the wad splits off and it leaves the middle somewhat with nothing. And you kind of see that here a little bit. Like there's so much over here and then you got a couple over here and it just doesn't look like, well, I shouldn't say that. Now that I'm looking a little bit closer, we might have more on the Longbeard than any other one. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yeah, so, I mean, you might have almost 20 on the Longbeard XR. That's very telling here. And this is a tight pattern if you can make sure you get that on the bird. So we're going to take these all back. We'll head inside and we'll count them all up. We'll get some official tallies here and we'll really make a good judge on which one of these is going to be the best one for you to be shooting, especially out to longer distances. All right, guys, so we're back inside now. I've had the chance to look at all the paper, count everything up, and come up with a good solid order from worst to best. But before that, we should say another disclaimer, and I've said it a couple times throughout the video, but a lot of this stuff is gonna have to depend on the gun, the choke tube, and the shooter. There's just a lot of variables out there that might affect kind of how each of these shells is going to be shooting. The gun and the choke tube obviously play a huge role. There's just going to be certain shells that work better out of certain guns. That's just all there is to it. And as the shooter, obviously, if you twitch a little bit, or if you're off one way or another, that's going to have a big impact as well. But there's no doubt that certain guns and choke tubes do take some of these a little bit better than others, and there is somewhat of a pattern here that I've noticed. So let's start with the worst, and that's going to be the Remington Nitro Turkey. Now this one, just like all of them, is going to kill a bird at 20 yards. There's no doubt about it. 25, 30, going to be just fine. Even out to 35, I think the Remington would be okay. Now, whether it was me or the gun, it did not shoot very well out to 35 and out to 50. 35 pretty much missed the bird. I mean, that was not good at all. Out to 50, it was a little bit better, but just super scattered. I mean, it just spread out a ton. It's not really what I'm looking for. I'd rather have better consistency. We didn't have many hits at 35 yards, maybe like 10, and then out to 50, I believe it was 6 hits. So that's just not the greatest. That's why it's going to be in last place. Then we have the Winchester Double X in third. It's kind of on par with the Remington in this case. Just not a lot of hits. Once again, whether it was me or the gun, something was off. Not a good shot at 35. Wasn't super impressed. I think the pattern was okay, just the pattern wasn't where I wanted it. And then out to 50 yards, I believe we had 7 hits, whereas the Remington we had 6. So pretty similar there. Whether it was my gun that didn't like it, whether it was just bad shooting on my part, whatever, these two just were not going to be it. So second place, we're getting a lot better here now with this shell. That's the Federal Premium, the Grand Slam. It shot pretty well. We had 21 hits out to 35 yards and 12 hits out to 50, which should be more than enough. I'm plenty happy with that. 35 yards, 21 hits all day long. That's going to be just fine. And 12 out to 50 should be all right as well, especially if you get it, in the right spot. You should be okay. So this one I think is going to kill birds, even out to long distances. I really wouldn't have a problem shooting this at all. It's just it wasn't number one. And last but not least, then obviously, number one is the Winchester Longbeard XR. And after talking to some other people in the process of shooting this video, there seems to be a general consensus that this one is a really good shell that a lot of people like, a lot of people trust, and it's been really good to a lot of people out to long distances. And from my experience, I would say the same thing. This is what I typically have been shooting without really knowing too much how these other ones are, so it's just kind of lucky. I've been shooting the best one all along, and like I said, it's just the tightest pattern. I believe we had 23 hits out at 35 yards, and another 20 hits at 50 yards, so that's by far the best one as far as pattern goes. It shot the best out of my gun and my choke. The only discrepancy I have with this is that it's 4-shot. And in some of these conversations, I've decided now to go with 5-shot in the Longbeard XR for this season. All the specifications are the same: 12 gauge, 3 inches, 1,200 feet per second, 1 3/4 ounces. The only difference is 5-shot instead of 4-shot, which just means that the BBs are going to be a little bit smaller, which means you'll get a couple more BBs in that shell than you would out of the 4-shot. And that should only really help you out. Now, I wouldn't go crazy with it. Even 6-shot might be a little bit light. I've shot it before. It's okay. But 5 just seems to be like the sweet spot. This should be a really, really good shell. It was by far the best one for me. And I think in a lot of these conversations that I've had, I don't really hear a lot of people talking too badly about this shell. So if you don't know which one you want to start with, you don't want to go out and buy a bunch of different shells and test them out, start with the Longbeard XR, go with the 5-shot. It's been great to me, and I think it'll be great to you as well. So let us know what you guys think in the comments below. We would love to hear which one of these works the best for you, and kind of see if there's a lot of people who say the Longbeard XR is the best, or maybe there's another one that kind of works better for you. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Hit the like button on this video, and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on all of our turkey hunting content to come, because we got a lot of good stuff coming for you guys really, really soon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.